Hi, welcome back to the 2013 film blog, and we've finally now found the time to actually fill in the missing gaps for the films we've missed, which are Star Trek Into Darkness and Separation. So we're going to start off with Star Trek, which we saw a few weeks ago now, so it's a delayed review, but we got here in the end. So, Star Trek Into Darkness, which is the new film from J.J. Abrams. It's the follow-up to his... They call it a reimagining, whatever. It's a reboot. It's a new start of the franchise, which supposedly is in a different galaxy to Gene Roddenberry's original Star Trek, and so we're going to try and do this now. Obviously, in the first film, we're introduced to all the cast of characters, they find the Enterprise, and they get sent off on their first mission. This one is sort of a bit more... It felt very much to me like filler, in that what we're looking to try and do is basically we're trying to find some way of getting the Enterprise onto its original 5-year mission, because that's obviously what we have to do here. So, not in a bad way, but this did feel very much like a filler film that had to get it from point A to point B. And it does that, I would say, pretty successfully. I mean, the basic story is that Kirk and Spock end up losing their ship. They are then attacked by a villainous character played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and they are then sent off by an admiral on a secretive mission into deep space, the Klingon homeworld, to try and find where this enemy has got to. There's a huge row between Kirk and Scotty because they are fitted with these brand new torpedoes, which Scotty obviously wants to have a look inside and is told that he can't. And basically, Scotty is told in no uncertain terms to get off the bridge and leave the ship. And instead, poor old Chekhov is sent down to basically man the warp drives. And they get to the Klingon homeworld. There's a rather intense firefight with the Klingons. Eventually, they're saved by Benedict Cumberbatch, who then comes along peacefully. And the rest of the film is sort of spent trying to work out who exactly is the bad guy. Is Benedict Cumberbatch... The obvious question to be asked is he Khan? That seems to be the main question being asked by almost every reviewer that I've seen, is Benedict Cumberbatch actually supposed to be Khan? The question is answered. I'm not going to give that answer away here. And it ends up with rather an intense fistfight towards the end. And there is hints of tragedy, there's reconciliation, there's glory. It's your standard blockbuster fare. It follows a pretty linear path. I'd say, for all the good things about it, it certainly isn't going to win any awards for being original. It follows a very, very worn path. At one point, there's a fight going on between Spock and Mr. Cumberbatch on top of effectively a train of sorts, and that scene could have been taken completely in one piece, taken out from either one of the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, or I think it was also done in one of the Batman films as well, actually. So it's not a particularly original way of doing things. That's not to say it's a bad thing, it's just saying that it's far from original. So, in terms of what is good about it, well, the main thing that is good is Cumberbatch, he's really, really good. We all know he's good in everything he does, but in this, he's particularly good. He certainly does that kind of quiet menace particularly well. And more to the point is that he's supposed to be the bad guy, and yet, ultimately, what you find half the time is you actually end up sympathising with him. And the question then becomes, really, in this world, who is bad and who is good? Who is it who defines these things? And a lot of the film is spent wrangling with essentially the Prime Directive, because an awful lot of the film is spent with the major characters breaking the Prime Directive. And the question has to be, why do we have laws? And if that law has to get broken, why would you follow it? It's basically taking Spock's view, which is very much a cold, Vulcan, logical view, which states that you must, in all circumstances, obey the Prime Directive. And you then have to take into account that the views of Kirk, who's got more of a holistic, rounded view, which says, no, you have to judge each case on its merits, and sometimes, to quote Lord of the Flies, say bollocks to the rules. So you've got these two worlds, and they are colliding. As I say, it's in parts it's very, very good. It's a pretty long film, but it's certainly at no point boring. One of the best reviews that I've seen of it, that gets right to the heart of the matter, is that it's an exceptionally fast film. Everything moves on at a cracking pace, and the reason why it does that is because if at any point it stopped this relentless pace, you'd be questioning exactly why this is happening. I mean, an awful lot of things that happen in there, when you think back later on about the film, you still wonder, well, why was he doing that? Who was he? What was I doing? It doesn't really fit properly as a piece of art when you look at it later on. But when you're there in the moment, what you can't deny is that it's interesting. You certainly also can't deny that it's engaging and that there are some brilliant performances in there. There are, unfortunately, some rather major negatives to this film. One of the big ones that I had was that, I mean, we watched this film in IMAX 3D in the gallery at the Odeon. There really shouldn't be anywhere better to watch this film than in that situation. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of IMAX. I think IMAX is the future. What I'm not a fan of, and I've never been a fan of, is 3D. Because it takes a very, very rare film, and the only one that I can think of so far in the entire history of 3D cinema that actually benefited from 3D was Life of Pi. I'm also told apparently Hugo was quite good, but I never saw that. But from the ones that I've seen, that I thought, yeah, that film would look great in 3D, Life of Pi being the only one. And every time you see someone get an interview about a film that they've made in 3D, or even worse, ones that they've retrofitted into 3D, they all say the same thing. They all say, we don't like 3D, but we think for this film, this is a really, really good film and it needs 3D. Sort of from where I am. For half the film, I mean, because those damn glasses, they really do get on my nerves. And for half the film, I had taken off the glasses. And for the vast majority of it, you cannot tell any difference at all, except that you've got, obviously, the major issue of light loss, because obviously they have to make it an awful lot darker for 3D. And a lot of me sort of thought, why the hell am I wearing these stupid bloody glasses when this film benefits in no way from 3D? Even the big opening sequence with the Enterprise leaping out of the water. So even in the scenes where you have the likes of Kirk and Cumberbatch flying between the Enterprise and the enemy ship, this is something that should look amazingly good in 3D, and yet it doesn't really. I mean, I'm thinking, is it really worth going through 2 hours of discomfort wearing these stupid glasses with the light loss issues going on for these effects that really aren't all that good? So that was a major issue for me in terms of why I didn't like it. The other one, and it's one that pretty much everyone has picked up on, the Alice Eve incident. You know, they already have on the ship Uhura, in terms of, you know, a woman who's clearly there and is supposed to be there because she is intelligent and not just because she's good looking. Now, in the first film, obviously because they have Uhura, they can't have a girl who is just good looking and intelligent. They have to at some point have her get her kit off. That happened in the first film with Uhura. This time you've got Alice Eve who's there, and again she's supposed to be an intelligent science officer who's been assigned to the ship for a very, very good reason. What happens, yet again, they have to have her taking her clothes off. I don't understand why this is. It's completely pointless. It's a horrible, horrible scene. Thinking, why? Why are you doing this? None of these men, who are supposedly equally as intelligent, are being forced to get their clothes. Why is anybody on a spaceship having to get their kit off? We're supposed to be in, like, the far, far future. Surely there is now some way in which we can get beyond this. Why do we have to endure this kind of ridiculous sexism and misogyny that goes on with these things? It was really, really horrible. And I'm sort of thinking, well, was there any real need to have that scene? Because it ruins what is, in some ways, a really good film. Because, you know, it is an engaging storyline. It's nice to have the Klingons back as bad guys again, being properly bad. Because obviously, we haven't really seen that since we got Worf, and suddenly all the Klingons became good guys again. These are good things to have. I mean, they blow up London, for goodness sake, which is almost unheard of. It's always tends to be New York or Washington that gets blown up. This time, it's London. It's a really interesting change. You've got the is he, isn't he Khan storyline. And obviously the fine acting Benedict Cumberbatch in that role. There's so many good things, and yet they are ruined by the fact that you're thinking, first of all, I've got really, really sore nose from these bloody 3D glasses. You're thinking, why the hell is this whole damn film so dark? And then third of all, thinking, why the hell is Alice Eve there in her pants? It's absolutely stupid, and it ruins a perfectly good film. I mean, I'd say, go and watch it, but seriously, the producers, for the third one, because there'll be a third one. This one has made a ton of money, there'll be a third one. Next time, here's a hint. Have a female character who is intelligent, who's as clever as the men, and has not got the need to wander around in her pants. I'll see you soon. Tra.